This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with Karl Edwards of Stiff Media. Adult Site Broker is proud to announce the launch of our new website, Adult Site Broker 3.0, at adultsitebroker.com. The look and feel of the new site is nice and up to date and easier to navigate. The new site also has links to our affiliate program, ASB Cash, and our new blog. Speaking of ASB Cash, we've doubled our affiliate payouts. That's right. Now when you refer sellers or buyers to us at Adult Site Broker, you're going to receive 20% of our broker commission on any and all sales that result from that referral for life. You can either place a link to us on your site or refer buyers and sellers through an email introduction. ASB Cash is the first affiliate program for an adult website brokerage. Check out asbcash.com for more details and to sign up. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to present a one-of-a-kind, unique, and legendary site. It's a pro-amateur ethnic reality site founded in 2005. Members never know what to expect. With a variety of different performers from brand new amateur talents to famous porn stars, the site continues to grow and expand with no major competitors in this niche. What makes it unique is their 100% original content that has uncensored and unscripted scenes. Their video trailers are short webisodes that engage the viewers and are immensely popular online. Almost all the traffic is organic with some affiliate traffic. The site gets about 20 joins and 40 rebills a day. This iconic site is available for only $1.4 million. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Karl Edwards of Stiff Media. Karl, thanks for being back with us today on Adult Site Broker Talk.
It's my pleasure, Bruce.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, Karl is one of the
true... Yes, it is. Thank you for noticing.
Karl is one of the true pioneers of the gay adult internet market, from his early days as the owner and operator of bedfellow.com to youlovejack.com and footwoody.com, and his most recent venture, xxxedit.com. He's been on the forefront of technology and real brand marketing. He shoots and edits his own content, manages his own affiliate programs, and codes and designs each of his sites from scratch. This hands-on approach keeps him in direct touch with his market and helps him stay one step ahead of the competition. Recently, he was vice president of LGBTQIA+ products at Dockler, the company behind Live Jasmine. Now he started Stiff Media, the first video editing and post-production company designed exclusively for the adult entertainment industry. So, Karl, besides my brief description, what is Stiff Media?
Well, first of all, I've done a lot. I should hire me. I have qualifications.
I would definitely recommend you, Karl.
Well, listen, Stiff Media, this is an extension of XXX Edit, but it's more of a full service bureau. So basically, we're video editing and post-production service for the adult industry in particular. My clients range in size anywhere from huge studios like Falcon and Raging Stallion to individual content producers who might have their own fan sites. Basically, anything that happens after they turn off the camera and before the content is presented to their members, that's where I step in.
I would imagine in this day and age, post-production requires a pretty good amount of software.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, it's not, it's funny. It's become simplified.
Really?
There's basically, there's like the big three packages that people might use. It depends what you're doing, right? There's your Adobe Suite, you've got your Premiere Pro and your After Effects, which is sort of an industry standard. But there's a whole fringe group now like me that are using DaVinci Resolve. There's options out there. So the real big thing is just staying on top of the hardware and the software and keeping it all balanced so that you never have any downtime. You can't have an update come in and shut you down for a week while some software company works out their problems because they had to roll out an update to you.
Yeah. And what's the advantage in your mind of DaVinci?
DaVinci, right off the bat, it's free. So if you think
that's a good advantage.
Yeah, but there's two versions. There's a free version, which is the full suite, not limited in any way,
Hmm.
and then the full product that you pay, I think, a couple $100 for, that adds a few extra special effects and a few extra
Hmm.
codecs. But anyone could just download the software and be editing video in no time flat.
Jeez.
So the fact that you don't have to pay a monthly fee is great, especially for smaller studios that don't have the ability to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month for software. And the quality is bang on. It's pretty much what all the Hollywood studios are using for all their work now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would imagine then it's more of an identity issue with them that people don't know them as opposed to the quality of it. Because it sounds like, I mean, I know how expensive Adobe products are, although I've never priced that particular one. I would imagine that people should be using this.
Yeah, well, you know what it was is Resolve and DaVinci used to be only for color correction, and it
Mm.
became the industry standard for all Hollywood productions. So anyone who's doing color
Wow.
grading or color correction. So when you see like a Transformer movie and it looks orange and teal, they create that effect in DaVinci Resolve.
Hmm.
And what's happened is Blackmagic Design, the company who bought the software, has slowly been building it out into a full-fledged editing suite that has its own special effects program. It has its
Hmm.
own audio editing program, everything in one package. And they've honed the product. It's at version 18 now. They've honed it to the
Hmm.
point where there's really no reason to use anything else. It's good enough. And even beyond good enough, it's so good that it's my first choice.
Yeah. I noticed you didn't mention Final Cut Pro.
Well, that's because you're just going to get in trouble if you mention Final Cut Pro. You can't win, right?
What do you mean?
Well, Apple changed Final Cut Pro when they went to version 10. They changed the entire paradigm.
Hmm.
And basically, what Apple said was, listen, editors, like traditional film editors, aren't our market anymore. Our market is
Hmm.
content creators. So
Interesting.
they redesigned the entire paradigm of the editing experience within Final Cut Pro to appeal to people who don't have traditional film editing experience.
Interesting.
And the entire editor market just basically said, forget it. And then it was buggy and there was all kinds of problems. And it took 4 or 5 years for them to catch up. And now it's actually working so well that a lot of people really use it, but you're paying the Apple tax for all the hardware.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're
I
paying like
pay that a lot.
1.6. Oh yeah, 1.6, 1.7 times as much
Yeah.
to get the same kind of performance. So I'm agnostic. I'm platform agnostic. I'm
Hmm.
bi-computeral. I can work in anything that you put in front of me.
Sure.
But my preference is to work on a PC, and
Mm.
my preference is to work in Resolve because it's just so stable.
That's interesting. A lot of people prefer, in fact, I think most people who do that kind of work, don't they prefer Macs?
I think so. I started out my career on a Mac.
Hmm.
Up until 5 years ago, I was Macintosh everything, and I still have iPhones and everything. You can't really
Hmm.
get away from those. But once it became clear that all of my clients, 5 years ago, all my clients wanted me to be on Premiere Pro and
Hmm.
not Final Cut.
Right.
Final Cut, oddly, a little side note here, it's like 20% faster to edit in Final Cut than
Hmm.
Premiere or Resolve, but nobody wants to use it because it's got such a
Interesting.
bad reputation. So I
Yeah.
have to go with what my clients want. So once I
Sure.
realized that I didn't have to be locked into the Mac platform, then I was free to sort of build a super editing station
Yeah.
and just work on whatever software was needed for whatever job I was working on.
Yeah. But for their purposes, I'm sure going to creators is probably going to make them a lot more money.
It's really worked out great for them. Like
Hmm.
basically all the people on YouTube that are just making these 10-minute videos, they're all on Final Cut. And there's a whole community that's built up around it again. It's just a different beast though.
Yeah. Well, Apple didn't become the largest company in the world by being stupid now, did they?
Well, you know what? I guess I guess you really can't argue with that.
So you said, although they're very frustrating at times, being someone who's locked into the Apple ecosystem, Mac, iPad,
Oh,
iPhone, Apple
you
TV,
know,
I got it all, baby.
but everyone complains about Apple and they say, "Oh, you're locked into their system. You have to do everything their way if you're on a Mac." Yeah, have you used a Windows PC lately? It's exactly the same way.
Sure,
You try
sure.
and get rid of Microsoft OneDrive. You just
Yeah,
can't. It's built into everything. There's no way
of
to
course.
everyone does that,
Yep.
and Mac gets an unfair rap
Yeah, I agree.
because they have this luxury brand identity, which I don't think they deserve. That if you're building stuff like Mac Pros that are $50,000, $60,000, but you look at the components, it's expensive, but it's not overpriced. It's just what that stuff costs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So now you said that Stiff Media is a video editing and post production service
yeah.
that specializes in the adult industry. Now, I know what editing is, but editing, I should have said editing instead of aing,
You said
but it's early in the morning here. But
I.
what's post production exactly? Give me some, give me the details there.
Yeah, well, but it's pretty easy. Post production is really anything that needs to be done to video content after the cameras are turned off, and it actually includes editing. But I
Hmm.
separate the term out editing because I don't know if my audience knows what post production means. So video
Hmm.
editing people know, but
Sure.
if you want to gang it all together, it would be color correction, resizing, reframing for social media,
Hmm.
special effects, compositing, anything that you do to put the finishing touches on a video. It basically post production means when the production is stopped and you have to prep the video content for display. That's where I step in.
Hmm. How long does it usually take to do post production on a scene?
Oh, I can only tell you this is like an interview question, right?
Hmm.
Like I'm interviewing for a job, and they're like,
Right.
"What makes you the right candidate?" I need more information. Like every scene is different,
Yeah.
and every producer is different. But typically, it takes me about 3 times as long as the amount of footage that I'm given.
Yeah,
So if somebody
it kind of
shoots,
reminds me. It kind of reminds me of editing this interview. This is going to take me 2 or 3 times the
yeah,
amount of time that we did the interview.
because you have to do it in real time.
Yes.
And if somebody gives me 3 hours of footage and there's 2 cameras, that's 6 hours of footage.
Yep.
It starts adding up. So by the time you synchronize everything and get all the cameras switching back and forth, it takes a few hours to pull it together. But I have an advantage that I've been doing this a long time, so I'm fast. I don't waste any time. So
Hmm.
it's not like I'm sitting around twiddling my thumbs waiting for stuff to render. But realistically, if you're coming to do a video job with me and you've got 2 hours of footage, you can count on the edit taking about 6 hours to complete.
Wow, that's a long time. And are you doing mainstream as well?
Yes, I am, but not through the Stiff Media brand.
Sure.
There's another brand, Kess Media, which is
Hmm.
basically the non-adult version of Stiff Media. Kess, of course, standing for Carl Edwards, a superstar. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. I would have assumed that. So you mentioned I was
Correctly so,
guess what the
sir.
hell is he talking about? So I was thinking about that.
It's a funny story because when I got out, I studied photography in university, and when I got out of
Mhm.
school, I went to the business office here in Toronto to set up a company. And the lady behind the counter said, "Well, you'll need a name." And I'm like, "Why I wasn't prepared. What should I do?" And she said, "It should be your name, separated by a comma, with what you do." So on the spot, I came up with Carl Edwards, comma, a superstar.
I love it.
And I thought I was so smart. And then I would go to art directors with my portfolio and give them the card that says Carl Edwards Superstar. And they would tear up my business card and slip it back in the portfolio and hand it back to me on like without looking at it. I was like, oh Jesus. So I had to shorten it to KES just to soften the blow of my own
That's hilarious.
lunacy. Yeah, I know. It's just so stupid. That's what you get when you're 20 years old, right?
Oh, yes, we all make our mistakes. We all make our mistakes. So now you mentioned special effects. What
Yeah.
exactly does that involve and how does it relate to adult?
To be honest, I've done productions that require explosions and laser beams. That's
Hmm.
part of it.
Yeah.
But in practical terms, special effects could simply mean motion tracking and blurring someone's face, or
Hmm.
taking a tattoo, or pixelating a tattoo.
Hmm.
It could be replacing a phone or computer screen to match the story that's being presented in the video.
Sure.
Maybe removing the shadow of a drone on a long establishing shot, or turning
Hmm.
day to night. There's a ton of things that fall under special effects.
Hmm.
It's more than just blowing things up, but I'll put explosions in anything you want. Don't you worry.
Oh, you can put an explosion in this podcast.
Well, you know what? We'll have to talk. We'll have to talk about my rates.
So, how many people do what you do exclusive to the adult industry? I mean, I've come across other editors, but I don't get the impression there's a lot.
No, and I've come across other editors too, and a lot of studios have their in-house editors. If you're knocking on doors, being like, "Hey, I'm from Stiff Media, I do editing," blah blah blah. The first thing anyone's ever going to say is, "Oh, we already have an editor."
Yep.
Like, like, like you're trying to come up with the next great idea for a gadget to sell on TV, and someone's like, "Oh, it's called a fork. I already have one." What you, but they're out there. But in terms of full service bureaus like Stiff Media, I believe I'm the only one
Wow.
that's actually marketing my services on a wide scale to the adult industry. I've come across a couple of individuals that are sort of freelancing,
Mhm.
but in terms of like the full kit and caboodle that I'm doing with the top to bottom post production services, I think Stiff Media is it right now.
Good. Okay. So, how long have you been an editor, and how would you rate your talent as one from when you got started to today?
Oh, well, I've been doing this. I mean, I used to edit all my own content back in the Bedfellow days,
Hmm.
when it was impossible to even capture digital video. So I've been doing editing myself for 30 years, my own mainstream products.
Hmm.
I've been doing it for 20 plus years.
Right.
And I think being an editor is a funny thing, Bruce. It's not knowing how to use a program. Anyone could learn how to use a program, but there's
Sure.
skills involved in editing that involve the control of timing and pace, and creating a sense of energy, and helping a story be portrayed in the right way,
Hmm.
that is difficult to learn. And I've kind of had the knack of that for well over 10 years now.
Yeah.
So I would say in terms of editing, I'm at the top of my game. Whatever
Hmm.
anyone gives me, I can actually. Editing is funny. It's a problem solving game. It's basically, you never have the footage that you need to tell the story correctly.
Yeah.
So it's all about reasoning your way through the stuff that you do have and
Hmm.
making it look like you had everything that you were supposed to have from the start. And it can be super frustrating, but when it actually works out, it's like doing the hard Sudoku on the New York Times. You're like, oh wow, I actually did that. I feel really good about myself.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a discrepancy between quality of shooting between different clients.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I always say that no one should be allowed to shoot anything until they've edited content for at least 2 years.
That's a good point.
uh, because there's a saying in the industry of shooting for the edit, and it's giving your editor enough tools so that he can hide the mistakes, number one, but number two, actually convey the story in the way that you wanted to. And I think a lot of producers get hung up in not understanding how the editing process works,
Hmm.
and then they try to shoot everything at once.
Yeah.
So they might be doing a close-up of whatever glistening insertion happens to
Mhm.
be going on, and then think, oh, I'm going to pan my camera up and get a picture of their face now. And then
Mhm.
halfway up to the face, something happens in the down there area, so they whip the camera back, and it's just this whole frenetic thing where you could just have two cameras running and not really have to worry about that. And if you understood the editing process, you'd know that your editor can actually cover your movement, and if something important happens, you'll still have it.
Yeah.
That there's no need to panic, that you can just relax and let the story be told. Let the actual action speak for itself, rather than some overt camera movement that you think adds a stylish flair that
Yeah.
usually just gets in the way. So I think that's just, that's me as an editor. If you
Mhm.
talk to any editor in the world, they'll all have the exact same complaint. No one shoots the right way. No
Yeah.
one gives me the right footage.
Oh, yeah.
All I have to do is fix mistakes, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're there to cover their mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And not get credit for it.
Of course.
Um, that's the funny part. If I do my job properly, the producers will never know that I did my job properly.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to have an ego like I have in order to get through this with.
Exactly. Well, it's like an umpire or a referee in a sporting event.
Yeah,
If you don't notice them, they're probably doing their job well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny because you see the Oscars in the best editing category, and it's kind of like, I'm sure every editor in the world just laughs at that, because if if you do your job properly, no one should notice it.
Sure.
It should be nothing to get an award for, right?
Well, you make a point. You definitely make a point. So you've run websites and shot your own content for the past 20 years or so. What is
Yeah.
it about editing that interests you?
Do you want the joke answer or the? The real answer.
Yeah, both would be
Well,
great because I love your
well,
jokes. Go ahead.
the joke answer is, with editing, I get to sit in the dark and nobody bugs me. I just sit
Perfect.
here, I do my job.
You said something like that off mic.
It's true, I did. Well, I'm really telling the truth there.
Maybe it's not a joke.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. I make decisions that affect other people's lives, right? Just
Mhm.
like it's all fine.
Alone and
Uh,
in the dark.
Alone and in the dark, and I'm not touching anything, including myself.
There you go.
But the reality is, it's there's creative potential in problem solving, and
Mhm.
I have to keep harkening back to that. You really get a charge out of fixing a scene and getting a scene together properly and having it be complete and good. There's a sense of satisfaction that's really hard to describe. I mean, I'm working with computers. I'm working in a
Mhm.
creative visual field.
Right.
I'm also interfacing with a lot of smaller producers now and
Yes.
helping them with their production process and consulting with them and helping them make the scenes even better. And it feels like it's weird because I'm doing porn, I'm editing porn, right? But it feels like I'm contributing to society in some way.
Mhm.
Like I'm actually
Makes sense.
helping the world come together in some very, very small way. So,
Become is
uh,
just spelled differently.
what, you didn't do that, did you?
I
You
did.
did. Oh no.
Had to go there.
What are we gonna do with you?
I don't know. I've been corrupted in this industry for way too long,
Oh,
Karl. You and me
you and
both,
me.
right? You and me
Yep.
both.
Exactly.
So, who's your target audience? Studios or independent? I can say independent producers, and
Yeah.
why?
Well, it's a mix. I've got studio clients with big budgets and huge productions, but I'm seeing more and more individual producers as time goes on. I
Hmm.
I love the ability, I love the stability that a studio can bring. Like if a studio wants to send me 4 or 5 scenes a month and have me just do everything, that's great. More than happy to do that.
Hmm.
But the individual producers, there's more interesting things happening in that landscape
Hmm.
as everyone is sort of creatively expanding their own possibilities at the same time. And they're doing really progressive things and pushing the boundaries of the medium. And they're people that you can work with, right? So a
Sure.
big part of what I do, I've said this before, I do consulting on productions as well, and
Hmm.
letting these folks, letting these producers know all the little tricks that make all the difference, that can really make a scene shine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I really enjoy working with individual producers, but I'm not going to ever turn down a studio job
Oh, sure.
because it's just a whole different ball of wax. So
Sure.
I'll do it all. I'll do it all.
So, so I would think actually that consulting can be very, very valuable to a company because it's going to help them shoot so people like yourself can do a good job of editing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, like even little things like the 180-degree rule, right?
Hmm.
In filmmaking, there's a rule that the camera shouldn't cross the 180-degree line
Hmm.
of your subjects. So if you have a subject on the left and a subject on the right, the subject on the left should always be on the left of the screen, and the subject on the right should always be on the right. But so many times,
That's also called reversing the vector, right?
reversing the vector. But how many times you'll see
I
producers,
went to broadcasting school.
right? You'll see producers come around the opposite side with their B cam, and suddenly the person on the left's on the right, and it's like, well, there's nothing I can do with that. So I end up flipping the screen, but then sometimes text is backwards, and it's just like they're like little things like that. And you try and tell that to a larger studio, and they're like, "Oh, I know how to shoot," and I'm like, "You're right. However you want to do it is fine." But
Hmm.
if you say that to a smaller producer, like, "Oh, wait, I didn't know that. That's really great. Tell me more." And you can sort of create a dialogue with them and
Hmm.
work with them to make the products better. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think that I can't take credit for what these people are doing because they're on the front lines with their fingers in the mud, figuratively. But I can give them my perspective as an editor and be like, hey, here's you're doing a 3 cam shoot, but all 3 cameras are within 6 inches of each other and from the same angle. If you spread those out, then you'll have a little bit more of an interesting thing. And they're like, oh wow, that's interesting. Okay. And they come back and then the next scene is even better. And it's just
Yeah.
like, it really feels great to collaborate with people on that level
Hmm.
to help just
Sure.
make everything look better.
I would. What percentage of your time are you spending consulting, and what percentage are you spending on post production?
It's very small. It depends on the clients, right? I'm finding that the individual producers, like the independent producers, the fan site operators, are very interested in hearing tips and things. But
Right.
it only takes me 2 seconds to say, "Hey, spread your cameras out and do one medium, one wide, and one
It's
close,"
true.
and I will edit them together. You don't have to worry about every shot, and that takes 5 seconds as opposed to the 6 hours it's going to take me to actually edit the footage.
Yeah.
So it's part. It's just sort of an undercurrent to everything I do. Is giving feedback and talking to producers and understanding if they want my input or not. Right. Sometimes
Yeah,
guys,
of course.
I say guys, people
Right.
want to do it the way they're doing it. So you have to respect that, of course.
Yeah, and you got to be careful because their egos are involved.
Yeah. Well, wait till they get a load on me. Right.
So you just mentioned fan sites. That's obviously
Yep.
the new reality in adult. How can you help content creators that run their own fan site?
Oh, well, I'll tell you. Number one, having a good editor, and this fan site or even big studios, but having a good editor frees the creators to do the important stuff, which is
Right.
creating their content.
Sure.
And I'm not a one and done kind of shop. I'm actually interested in working with these people and helping them make the best content they can. So
Sure.
there's all of that as well. But this whole thing about shooting for the edit. Just give your editor the right tools, get the job done, and that's just a communication that you can have with the creators.
Right.
But it's the collaborative input that I can offer. I want to give them what they want. They have a vision of what they want to see, but they might not have the kind of visual vocabulary that I have as an editor
Sure.
to say, hey, if you just tweak this little way, this would look so good. Here's an example of what I mean. And then suddenly they're like, oh yeah, actually, now I do see what you mean. Do it that way.
Right.
Or they're like, no, I hate you. Shut up and just do what I said. But either way, but for me, it's the idea that there can be collaboration to make something bigger than either of us could have made on our own is the exciting part of working with those folks.
Sure. So why would someone outsource their video editing instead of just hiring someone to edit in-house?
Are you talking about outsourcing video editing to just anyone or Stiff Media? Because I
Well, I
mean,
would hope. Well, I would hope you.
yeah, me too, right? But I think it makes a sense on a lot of different levels. Number one, and I said this before, just because someone knows how to use Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut doesn't make them a good editor. And I
Correct.
think people get hung up by putting someone in front of a computer, in front of an editing program, and saying, "Here, we've got an editor." With Stiff Media, we are filled with very good editors, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
at the top of that heap. I'm
Mm-hmm.
the person in charge of it all. So
Right.
you've got award-winning editors working on your content, and that says a lot. But
Sure.
beyond just the talent of the people who are cutting the scenes, it just doesn't always make sense for studios or even individual producers to maintain an editing suite in house. There's software and technology, and you don't want to pay someone to be sitting in front of a computer while a scene renders.
Right.
We do all the heavy lifting. So producers can just worry about the content, and that's kind of liberating on a lot of fronts, right?
Yeah, I kind of liken it to what I do in brokering websites and also, our marketing company. I've had companies tell me, "Oh yeah, we have a marketing guy or we have a marketing gal."
Yep.
Okay. And if you dig deeper, you find out they just got out of college. They
Yep.
had they have a marketing degree.
It's funny because I get that same thing with, oh, we already have an editor,
Yeah.
right? The automatic response for any time you try to tell somebody about the service that you're offering is to say, you're not innovating because whatever you have, we already have it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just a knee jerk reaction that people
Sure.
have to protect themselves so that they don't feel like they're missing something by not already having the thing that you're selling them, right?
Yeah.
And even for me, even if you have an in-house editor, like there's still plenty of ways that I can help. There's production consultation, there's all the
Mhm.
special effects and the color grading stuff that I do that most editors don't have any foggiest idea how to approach.
Mhm.
Most in-house editors, some do. There's lots of people out there that do a great job at that, but there's a good chance that there's lots that we can do anyways. And even if it's there's overflow, there's times when a single editor in-house can't handle the volume of
Yeah.
work that's being produced. So it always
Exactly.
it always helps to have a backup plan, and I'll take the backup role. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, their money's green.
Yeah,
So, let's
he
say
says looking at his Gavian award. I
So,
won an award. It's like the Oscars for gay porn.
nice. You won that?
Yeah, well, not really. I mean, it's a bit of a misnomer. One of the videos that I won a Grabby a couple years ago for one of the videos I worked on,
Good.
but one of the videos I worked on really closely. Shishi Leroux was the director, and I worked really closely with the guys who were shooting it and
Yeah.
Shishi. We had to go in afterwards and
Mm-hmm.
film extra stuff, and I felt really closely attached to it. And it won Best All Sex Feature
That's great.
just before the pandemic. And it's funny because I was at the AVN/GAVN show while all this was going on, and it was February of 2020, just
Yeah.
before the
Right.
pandemic.
Right.
And we were all hearing about the pandemic, and we're walking around going, it's probably nothing. And then all of a sudden, one of the camera guys on our team got sick and had to go home, and we're all like, should we be getting Purell and wiping down everything?
Yes.
Suddenly we're like, wow. And who knew, like, we'd all be on lockdown for 3 years
Wipe down
afterwards,
the
right?
world.
Oh my God. So
I
remember when
remember.
that was going on, and they
Yeah.
convinced us that we just had to wash our hands and we'd be fine.
Yeah. That was a really scary time. I mean, I remember being in March in Tempe, and I'm always down there or somewhere in Arizona. I don't remember
March, was that the
exactly.
last Phoenix Forum or?
No, that was the year after. The last Phoenix
Oh,
Forum was
yeah.
2019.
Those were
So,
good times.
yeah, oh God, I missed that show.
I do
So,
too.
I think that's where
You
you and I
hated it while it was
probably
going
met.
on, right?
What's that?
It was not enjoyable at all while it's going on. But now that it's not around anymore, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, those are good times.
Yeah. No, I always loved the show. I always had a great time at the show too. I, yeah. And it was, as far as the gay space, that was the show.
Oh yeah. Back then, the gay side of the industry, we had some cachet. If we showed up at something,
Hmm.
it seemed like the rest of the industry paid attention that we were going there. And I
It's
don't know
true.
how that happened. But it was, there was Morgan and I and a group of us that
Hmm.
became really close friends.
Yeah.
And sort of that friendship, I think, created the sense in the rest of the industry of importance whenever we showed up,
Yeah.
because we always just stuck together. And
Yeah.
it was the Velvet Mafia, but it was
Sure.
very funny.
Yeah, that's where I no doubt met Morgan and Tim and
Oh
all
God.
the core group in the gay space. And yeah, it's I miss those parties, man. I miss those were
Oh,
some great times, some
it
really
was
great
really fun,
times.
and good business going on too.
Yes, yes.
And it felt like the Wild West in a lot of ways, but it
Hmm.
wasn't. This was I can remember back to when these events were people like you and me talking to each other,
Yeah.
and then eventually at some point, people like you and me started sending our salespeople to talk to
Hmm.
people like you and me.
Sure.
I was like,
Right.
what am I talking to a salesperson for? Like, what
Yeah.
is happening? So
Exactly.
it's funny. The industry changed in a heartbeat, and the way that people did business changed in the heartbeat, and then
Exactly.
Manwin ruined it all.
Yeah, that definitely was not a good thing. So, so I was saying that it's March 2020, and I was down
Oh
there. I
yeah,
was actually down there. I used to go every year for baseball, and then right after baseball would be the Phoenix Forum. I spend
yep.
a month down there watching my Giants.
Well, that's right. The
Yeah, yeah.
the Grapefruit League, not the Grapefruit League, but
No,
spring training goes on down
yeah,
there.
Cactus League,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Grapefruit's Florida. I've never seen a grapefruit in Arizona. Probably never will. Oh, and the
Well,
supermarket,
I
they have
think
a
I got
few.
confused because one year the Blue Jays had to be in Arizona because
Really?
something was going on in Florida. I forget what it was, but
Oh,
so I in my
remember that.
brain. Plus, I'm an old lady, so I can't keep any facts straight.
You're so funny. I remember that we're watching CNN when I used to watch CNN, and when used to watch any news, which I try to avoid these days. It
Oh, you have
depresses
to.
me. Ever
Oh,
since
it's just
January 6th,
that's just infuriating.
2021, it just depresses me. So
Yeah.
we hear San Francisco Bay Area has just been locked down. And I looked at my
Oh,
wife and I'm like,
nice.
these exact words, we're fucking out of here. They had just stopped spring training. And I have a T-shirt, by the way, a Giants T-shirt that says "Just getting started."
Oh, really now?
I love that shirt. I just love that shirt. And so that at that point, spring training was over. So we had over the weekend gone out to Grand Canyon and Sedona over a couple days and come back.
Uh-huh.
And it was a Tuesday, and on Friday we flew to LA and we were on a JAL flight from LA to Tokyo to Bangkok, and we
Oh,
got
wow.
out of there. And
Yeah.
I'm amazed that we got a flight. But anyway, it was a really weird time, an extremely weird time. So back to the questions, sir. let's say I'm looking, because you and I can BS all day. Let's say I'm looking for an editor. We're both good at it. What should I look for? So teach me to be the expert in hiring one.
Oh, it's easy. Step one, hire Stiff Media.
Okay.
Step two, there is no step two.
Step two, repeat step one.
Wash, rinse, repeat. But I mean, seriously, you know what? I would say look for an editor that's going to ask questions and be interested in the story that you're trying to tell. And it's hard to think that their story is important. Like, I don't mean like, did somebody order a pizza? That's plot. This is a story. It's something very different. And the story could just be, the way that someone goes from fully clothed to glistening insertion. Like there's a craft to that. But a good editor is going to ask you questions. And any editor that quotes you a flat rate without knowing the job or what's involved has to cut corners. It's a fact of life. So if you've got someone saying,
run and hide, right?
Well, yeah, or run and hide, or run to your computer and go directly to stiffmedia.com and contact me.
Yes. Do not pass
shameless self-promotion.com.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got to have a relationship with your editor, and it's not always fun because they're always under the stress of not having the footage that they need in order to say what they feel they want to say. And but your editor needs to understand what you want so they can give it to you quickly and effectively. Anyone who says offers you a flat rate, $100 a scene, like just go on Fiverr, then throw your footage in the air, and wherever it lands, that's your edit, because that's about what you're going to get. And again, if all else fails, just hire Stiff Media.
Where have I heard that before? God, it sounds familiar. Sounds really familiar. So what's the number one thing you tell new clients before you're editing their content?
Oh, that's a good question. Which is something someone says
because I asked
when they don't have an answer ready for the question.
Exactly.
But there's not, it's not like one thing. It's a conversation. So if I'm talking to a new client, my first job is always to understand where they're coming from, what they need. I need to know what kind of cameras they shot on, the frame rates, the picture profiles. Are they using second system audio? What is their output? What's their intended audience? Is it going on the web? Is it going to DVD? Or are they going to broadcast? Because everything is a little bit different, and how you're going to color grade it is different if it's going on TV versus the internet. So it's not about the number one. You know what? I guess the one thing I tell new clients is I can't quote you anything until I find out more about what you're doing. Yeah. And it's weird because some people appreciate that and other people just have no time for it. They're just like, I just want to know what you're doing. Like, here, I've got 500 previews I need you to do. Here's 30 DVDs. I need 500 previews from it. And I'm like, okay, I can do that, but I can't quote you until I know all this other stuff. Like, I want to give people the right finished product. I don't want to just do the job and get the check. I've been in this industry way too long, and it's not. I don't need to do this to pay my rent anymore. I'm doing this because it's something that's enjoyable, and I really feel that I can contribute to the process. So I really approach it from that point of view.
And you know what? Asking questions is what any professional should do. You see an attorney, they ask you lots of questions about the case. If you see a doctor, they ask you where it hurts. How long has it hurt? Okay.
Right.
So if you're, in my case, a website broker, I ask to see financials. I ask for a history of the website. I ask why you're selling. In my marketing work, I'm asking people a whole bank of questions so I can actually see where they're at and where they're going. So if you're a professional, you should be asking questions, lots of questions. And if you don't ask questions, then that person isn't a professional. That's my feeling.
I mean, you want to get to the point with your customers, or I want to get to the point with my customers where, I just know them well enough and I know what each individual is looking for, that they can just send me their stuff and I can decipher what the plot is based on what I know about them. But that doesn't come, out of thin air.
Right.
Like it takes a long time to build that relationship and build the trust and build the understanding. And that's the constant process that you're always involved in with your customers, especially on the editing side of the business.
Absolutely. Do you think plots are dead in adult videos?
Well, we touched on this earlier. I don't think. I mean, plots are boring, right? But story is everything. So plots are did somebody order a pizza, or plots are or trying to sell a pot, but instead we're in Florida and now we're having a gangbang in the hotel room. that is not story. That's just plot.
Yes.
But story can unfold in any situation. Story involves conflict and characters and change, and it's the thing that is really engaging. And I think the people that are really excelling right now understand that. Whether it's a Cocky Boys or it's a Disruptive Films or a Noel Alejandro, the people that are really sort of standing out for the quality of their content, all understand that story is separate from plot, and the context of what you're doing doesn't matter. What you're doing and what the people on the screen are doing is the thing that's engaging the customers, engaging the viewers, right? So
Sure.
I don't think plot is dead, although I think it should be.
Kill it.
But in my defense as well, a good edit can make or break any story.
Sure.
So whether you have a story or a crappy plot, if you got a crappy edit, it's gonna look crappy no matter what.
Crap equals crap.
Well, there's that, right?
So, as an editor, you see all the behind the scenes footage on every production. What's the most interesting thing you've ever seen when editing a video?
Now, was there air quotes around the word interesting there, Bruce? Interesting. I mean, there have been so many, and I can't talk about the funny stuff because that would be betraying the confidence of my customers. But there's all kinds of funny stuff. I think for me, it's not one incident so much as it's just seeing the process behind the scenes, seeing what Shishi LaRue is like when she's not directing, when you catch the glimpses of her without being on as a character, seeing what the porn stars are like when they're not on, when they're not, engaged in fornication, when they're just hanging around, like seeing the real people setting up the scenes in the background. That process I find infinitely fascinating. And it's something that so few people get to ever see. So it feels almost perverted, but not in a dirty way.
So not perverted in a dirty way. It's perverted not in a dirty way. That's interesting.
Yeah, good, clean perversion. You understand?
Yeah, a little good, clean perversion. I like that. That's Karl, I come up with a new vocabulary every time I talk to you.
That's what I'm here for.
You said you can't talk about the funny stuff because you'll violate confidence, but you don't have to identify who it is. Tell me one story.
No, I can't. It's too
Come
harrowing.
on. Something funny.
But I will tell you this much.
Okay.
You don't even get your official badge of being a pornographer, especially a gay pornographer, until someone shits on your face. This is a hard and fast rule.
Okay. Yes.
It's like someone's like, "Oh, you shoot porn? Yeah. Did somebody shit on your face yet? No. Then you don't shoot porn." That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm getting the visual, and it's not a good one.
Yeah, I mean, one of my funny taglines for this business is editing is more than taking out the farts and giggles, but it's most definitely involves taking out the farts and giggles.
Nice. So you have obviously a lot of experience in the gay space, maybe more than anybody. So do you anticipate most of your business coming from the gay market or from straight as well?
It's funny. Most of my business comes from the gay side of the industry.
Sure.
But I think that's just happenstance.
Well, that's your contacts.
It's my contacts. It's who I've known. And, I've got a few clients that produce straight content and they're super happy with the job that I do. But most of the stuff that comes through Stiff Media is gay. Yeah. Would I personally rather look at dicks or pussy? Well, I'd rather just watch TV and go to bed, to be honest. or order a pizza. Someone's got to order pizzas now.
Do you anticipate more straight business coming?
I honestly don't judge customers in that way. Like any new customer that's coming to me that wants to get editing, we have that conversation. We figure out what people want.
Sure.
Most of the time, the straight customers that are coming through, it's weird, but they're the customers that have ready-made content that they want tube clips for, or they want 30-second previews for, or they want me to chop up scenes and create other things for it. It's not like the same thing where we're creating a production, which is what most of the customers that are producing gay content do for me. And I think it's just all happenstance. I'm not placing a judgment on the straight side of the industry, but it's weird. It's more of a fast and in and out. Oh, here we go. It's an in and out on the
Great
straight side of
burgers.
the industry. They're like, yeah, whatever, tits, click, click, give me previews, right?
Tits,
Whereas on the
cock, pussy, goodbye.
tits, cock, pussy, goodbye. Did somebody order a pizza?
It's funny that whenever the pool guy's here, I say he's the world's most famous porn star.
Who's your pool? Is Jeff Stryker cleaning pools now? What?
You're
That's
so
terrible.
funny. You're so
I'm the
funny.
worst.
By the way, you mentioned a team. How many editors do you have working for you?
There's 3 people that I bounce between, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have other people that I rely on for motion graphics. And
Mm-hmm.
if there's a really tough color grading, I've got a really great colorist. So
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of a virtual company at this
Sure.
point,
Isn't
because that's
everything?
just that's the way the world works now. But it fluctuates anywhere between 3 and half a dozen people, depending on the jobs that are required. And I could expand that as much as necessary. But the important thing, if I'm going to talk about expanding, everyone has to understand that I'm the final say on any edit on any project
Sure.
that comes through our door. So if somebody does all the grunt work, I go through and do the finishing touches on it to make sure that it's exactly up to the quality
Control
that we need.
freak, huh?
Yeah, but most of the time, to be honest, I'm doing most of it myself because I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So
sure you do. I know. It's obvious. I can hear the passion. I can hear the passion for what you do. And I think anything you do. What's that?
That's my emphysema.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I get confused. Well, Karl, it was a pleasure having you back on Adult Site Broker Talk again.
Always a pleasure. It's like we're just having a phone conversation. It doesn't feel like we're actually doing a real podcast, except for all the mentions of stiffmedia.com.
Yeah.
Stiffmedia.com.
Anyway, I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon. My broker tip today is part 2 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. Last week we talked about converting traffic and improving user experience. Make a good offer. If you're selling something and the offer isn't good, you won't make money. It's plain and simple as that. And if your offer is to contact you or to get more information, then make the offer attractive and easy to understand. If you're selling something, make buying easy. Show them an easy way to buy and then leave. Help them by making suggestions on what to buy. Amazon.com is the best at this. They always have suggestions on what to buy based on your buying and browsing history. They use AI to do this. There are AI engines available these days at a modest cost. Look into this if you can. Don't clutter up your site with unnecessary items, buttons, and images. Keep it as simple as possible. The best and most successful sites are the simple ones, the ones that lead you to take the action you'd like them to take. It's not that hard. Just remember, when you're putting together any site, try to think through the buying process like a human being. Whatever you do, don't turn over that process to your designer. Don't just say, build me a website. What you'll get out the other end will not give you what it is you're looking for. Give them as much direction as possible and make it easy for them to build a site for you that makes your business succeed. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week we'll be speaking with Steph Sia of Strip by Sia. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Karl Edwards of Stiff Media. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.